Welcome back to our second part of our video on how to browse a report in UIPlanner. And so we're going to continue where we left off, talking about browsing these reports and kind of looking a little bit at some advanced features here or advanced capabilities here that you can use to kind of help you narrow down your search of what you're trying to do or what you're trying to output from UIPlanner. So one of the things that you'll come across is that you'll come across these reports that have lots of lines. And the same report that we were looking at, like we did in the prior video, was this Sierra Pacific rate schedule report. So you know that we have this D1 domestic use entity, and you see this, it goes on forever. We have a lot of entities in here that just repeat that same report several times for every entity and show those numbers for every single entity, or every rate schedule in this case. And as you remember, there's a lot of them right here. You see all of these? Those are all entities for the Sierra Pacific rate schedule entity group. And so we can see that we have a lot of entities that we have to go through, and it would be really hard to go through all this information if all we cared about, let's say for example, was that all we cared about was total megawatt hours. What if that's all we cared about at the moment? And what I mean by that is just like, so here's like GS4 and G, and if we scroll down just a little bit into this report, there's a line right here called megawatt hour total. This is what is mainly driving a lot of the cost for this customer, right? Aside the number of customers or the customer charge, if you will. But this is one of the biggest drivers of the cost for the customer. But we just are concerned about the megawatt hours, not the megawatt demand. We can look at that later. But we're just going to focus on this one line. How could we just simply just look at that one line for every single one of those entities within this report? Well, there is a way to do that. You can go here to select entities, and you have this thing called temporary selection not saved to database. Now this particular report actually has a predefined summary, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but typically when you first log in, if you're new to this, you'll have this set to temporary selection not saved to database. What that means is that anything that we change for this temporary selection, it will not be saved to the database. It's just for you, and it's also temporary. So if you log out of the model, it will not, that selection will go away the next time when you log in. And so you'll have to repeat that selection again if you want to use it, or you can ask your admin to kind of help you create a summary selection so that you can repeat that use of it in the future. In this case, we created one for a user to basically have to narrow the selection to a couple lines that they only wanted to see. So if we select temporary selection, then we hit this button called exclude lines. It'll bring up a box. This basically brings up a box of dialog box of all the lines in this report. Now you can see, you scroll all the way down, that's a lot of lines. Now all these are not necessarily visible all the time. Some may be hidden, but this is just all the possible lines that you can check. Now we'll start off by hitting uncheck because we're only going to do one line, so we'll just uncheck. It always leaves the first line or the first two lines checked because this is a line that basically tells you what the report is or what the entity is that's rolling over in that particular report. Not all our reports are set up like that, but some are. Some typically have like 2 rows that you can't uncheck. So if we scroll down here, we're trying to find that megawatt hour total line, and it happens to be right here. We'll check that. So that's the only one checked besides the first line. We'll hit close. And then we'll come back to this browse report. And remember, we checked all of these entities of the Sierra Pacific Electric Rate Schedule entity group. And then as you can see here, our report changed. Our report now shows this one line for every single entity. So that's useful because now what we can do is we can look at this and we can see, we can kind of like eyeball, is the megawatt hour total good? Is it right? We can also, you notice I don't have a total. This is just showing each entity. The other thing too is you can change it. You can say only total. And now it just narrows it down to just one line and sums up all of those entities into one mass and one line. See here? And you can scroll down, you can see that it's picking up every single one of those entities. And then also, instead of no total or only total, we had the first one that we had before was no total. That one you were just seeing as only total. And now if we stick with total, it brings it kind of back to look like what we had before with no total. But this time it has this little total at the bottom. And now it sums up all of those. And you can see him repeat them here in the drill down. Now this is useful because when you want to output it to Excel, you can output it just like this. What you see is what you get. Now the interesting thing is that if you output it, let's say with no total, I'm sorry, not no total, only total, you will see what will happen when we output to Excel. So when we output to Excel, you'll notice that we lose all that detail. We won't be able to tell what particular entities made up this number. So just a caution to the wind here, that if you try to do the total, even though it has the drill down in the UIPlanner, you're going to lose that when you output it to Excel. So if you want to retain the detail there, then I would suggest next time when you are trying to go through this and you're trying to look at a specific line, then make sure that you select the one that says with total. You can also select no total and just create your own total when you output to Excel, but this makes it nice and convenient so that you already have the total with it when you output it. And so that concludes some of the added features for this video. We would cover more of this summary selection, but I think it's a little more advanced and it's pretty much straightforward. It's basically the same thing as the temporary selection. It's just that it's a saved version of it. And so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next part of our UIPlanner training. Thank you.